Hi everyone, Armored Pants here, and I have a new video for you. This is a subscriber request video and it's about tips on surviving, that is getting your survival ratio up. Now, I think you shouldn't worry too much about stats, but I know some of you do, so we'll have a look at it anyway. So, you want to survive, right? So basically the whole point of this is you want to get to the end of the game without dying, right? So it's not really so much about winning or losing, although I guess you'd prefer to win, but it's about survivability. So let's have a look at 5 kind of tips to increase your survival ratio and to avoid death, which is basically what we want to do. So you want to conserve your hit points. It's fairly obvious, particularly at the start of the game. Your first shot timing is key, spotting mechanics, patience, and end of game maintenance. The first 3 of these are kind of around the start of the game, and the second 2 are mid game and end game. So we're going to have a look at these in some detail. So firstly, conserving your hit points. This is basic mathematics, right? The higher your number of hit points, the more hits you can sustain, right? Subtracting numbers, which are hits basically from a bigger number, takes a lot longer than from a smaller number. So basically it's simple mathematics, right? You want to have as high a number as possible for as much of the game as possible, especially towards the end. So the higher number of hit points you have, the more likely you are to survive the game, whether you win or lose, right? This is basic mathematics, right? So therefore it's about conserving hit points, right? Not doing stupid things at the start of the game. And one of the stupid things that we can do at the start of the game, and you've probably seen this many times, is taking a shot when it's not advisable to do so. So therefore your first shot timing. This is an often overlooked dynamic, particularly when people get into the heat of the game. But when you take your first shot can really determine your whole game. And I can hear you saying, but surely Armored, this game is about shooting, right? It's about firing, right? But yeah, it is, but it's also about other things. And just because you have a shot, it doesn't mean you should take it. You know, and how often have you seen a player take a shot at the start of the game, he breaks camo, gets spotted, he takes massive damage, and effectively he's blown himself up, right? He's blown his whole gameplay. So therefore you need to be cautious at the start. And as I said, just because you have a shot doesn't mean you should take it. Be cognitive of what's around you and see if you're actually going to take damage by taking that shot and breaking camo. Another very, very important part is spotting and concealment mechanics. So let's take an example here. If we've got an RU-251 and we've got a Helsing, right? And you know, this is key to understanding a major and key dynamic of the game, but also avoiding damage. So the view ranges are 304 meters for the RU-251, 271.5 meters from the Helsing. And the RU-251 is able to unlock the Helsing's position much earlier than he can, the RU-251. Look at the view ranges here, right? When the Helsing is still, the RU-251 can spot it within 229, but when he fires, even when still, that goes up to 277.8 meters. So he only needs to get within 277.8 meters to spot him up. And the RU has huge concealment numbers. The Helsing needs to get within 197 meters to spot him up, which is not going to happen, right? So therefore, this is a key dynamic of conserving your hit points early on. You need to understand this, because if you can remain concealed at the start of the game, you can't be hit, and therefore you conserve your hit points. And you know, very often this is overlooked by people, and really understanding view range and concealment numbers, how they interact together, is vital in Blitz and vital to not taking damage and conserving your hit points, right? Simple rule. There is much more detail on view range and concealment numbers in the light tank guide under the spotting. So I would suggest that you have a look at that if you need some more help with that. Now, the fourth is patience. Now, this is perhaps the most difficult skill to master in Blitz. You need to be more like the way of the samurai, the Bushido way of war. You need to be more zen, right? And you know, basically you just don't want to rush into the reds. You need to play clever, not fast. But this is very difficult because our natural instinct in a 7-minute game is to rush in. We also don't want to be accused of camping. We also don't want to be accused of, you know, sitting back and not helping the team. So it's a balancing act, and this comes with skill. But you need to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, rushing into the reds early on or in any part of the game is going to reduce you losing hit points and probably dying and not surviving. So you need to be very aware of that. Learn to be patient in your gameplay. Now, end game maintenance. Basically, there's 2 scenarios we're going to look at here, and this is like towards the end of the game. And you can be winning the game or you can be losing the game, but you can still survive both cases. And there's a lot of scenarios that can unfold, right? You can win and die, you can lose and survive, you can lose and die, and you can win and survive, right? So it's basically 4 different scenarios. So let's have a look at those and how they unfold. And in this guide, we're only going to talk about surviving because that's really what this guide is about. Not about getting extra kills, not about getting that extra damage points, it's about surviving, right? So let's have a look at end game maintenance when you are possibly going to lose. And you know you're going to lose, right? So there's 4 enemy tanks left, 3 enemy tanks left, and just you. So probably you're going to lose, especially if you don't have much hit points left. So your options basically are threefold. You can do the noble sacrifice, which is basically you see guys doing that. They just sit there, put their gun in the air, and just let the others kill them. You can decide, listen, I'm going to take them with me and try to kill as many of them as you possibly can before they take you away. Or you can run away. Now, if you want to avoid death, if you want to avoid the Grim Reaper, basically your best option is run away, right? Be that greyhound, be that dog, out of the gates, get away. Now, if your objective is to survive the battle, of course, that's your basic go-to strategy. Now, of course, it's not always possible. It depends on a number of factors, right? Your tank, the enemy tanks, the time remaining, etc. But if possible, you need to at least stay away from the enemy tanks and to somehow survive if you can't run away. Now, if you're winning a game and you know you're going to win, there's 3 or 4 of your tanks left, one of him, you also can die. You want to avoid death. And danger is particularly here if you're on low HP, you're one shot, and it's particularly dangerous if there's a good player on the red team, and she will target you because they want to get that extra kill and bump up their stats. They're basically following the take 'em with you strategy, right? So what do you do in this case? Well, you basically need to avoid the reds, right? And this goes against all of your instincts, right? Because you really want to go in there, you want to rush in, get that extra kill, get that extra damage points, you know, maybe get an extra badge. But basically what you want to do, if you want to survive and you're a one shot, if you want to avoid risk, you need to leave the heavy lifting to your teammates. You're going to have to stay out of danger, stay away from that red. Don't give that red guy or girl a chance to take you out. And you're going to have to forego some hit points, maybe forego an extra kill. But if you want to increase your survivability ratio, you need to do that. So basically you don't rush in for that extra kill, for that extra bit of HP. So you need to sacrifice, let's say, damage statistics a little bit to increase your survivability statistics. But it is tempting to go in, and that's a pitfall that we all often fall into. So, you know, how do you avoid that? Because our instinct is to, hey, let's go in and get the kill. Well, you just need to be cognitive to think about it. Now, let's say another scenario where there's an uncertain outcome. Let's paint a picture where you have just finished a brawl, you've killed the enemy, and you're going to just move off to tackle the next one, and all of a sudden you get hit, you open flames, you're dead. What's happened? Well, you've been proximity spotted up to all of the remaining reds. And basically one of them, like this nice TD here, is just sitting there waiting for you to come out of cover, and he's just going to clear you off. And the problem is here that we are concentrating on the tank that we're fighting and not concentrating on the tanks that are left. So again, we need to be a bit patient, a bit more zen. We need to be a bit more Bushido. And we need to stop, not break cover. We need to wait 11 seconds or 10.6 to reset our camo. Then we move off. This is the chemical formula for adrenaline, and adrenaline is what gets us killed all the time there. You know, our adrenaline's saying, let's go kill the rest of the reds. But they're just sitting there waiting for you to break cover. So basically you need to replace adrenaline with brain power. And this requires also some training because it goes against our natural instincts. So again, a tip for, you know, to be patient, to be a bit more zen, reset that camo before moving off. Because, you know, that's basically a good way to avoid being hit and dying at the very end of the game. So just a quick recap: conserve your hit points, be cognitive of your first shot timing, be aware of spotting, concealment mechanics, be patient, and basically be aware of your end game maintenance. Avoid getting taken out at the last moment of the game by that red looking for that extra kill. So I guess that kind of concludes these 5 tips. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. And I guess all that remains now for me to say is pants off.